I just had a question. As non-Muslims, we have questions about Sharia law. Is Sharia law in force in all Muslim territories,
No,
like
I don't think there's
countries?
any country that actually uses Sharia law fully. That would be nice, but there is none. Most, if
So
not
you can,
all, Muslim
sorry.
countries are actually secular, but they use some Islamic laws. So Sharia law, what you're saying right now is you're saying the law of the law. Sharia in Islam or Arabic just means the law. So Islamic law, it's what you're referring to. Alaikum salam.
Because they're broadcast on by different Muslims on TikTok, they talk about it as I heard them say that a woman's word is worth half the weight of a man. Is that true?
In specific areas, for example, in a court, in an Islamic court, for
Yes.
witnesses, a man, you need like one man for witnessing, and two women, for example. That's it, but not all the time. For example, if it's something between her and her husband, for example, or another man, her just you can take fully her testimony, for example. So it's just when it comes to witnessing, you need two women and one man. That's it in a very specific case.
So if it's a woman accusing a man of criminal activity, I don't want to say what, but if it's a
Yeah,
woman accusing a
yeah,
man of
just
criminal
herself.
activity,
Herself is enough. Yeah, this is
just herself.
yeah. So for example, it's witnessing. For example, let's say there's a court and you need some witnesses. You can have like one man or two women, and that's actually comes as to make the woman like the woman's job easier. Right. For example, they're gonna talk to each other and then they're gonna be helping each other to whatever. Right. It's not because she's like mentally having issues, whatever like that. It's not at all.
And is alcohol and tobacco banned in Muslim countries?
In most of them, yeah, I think so. Not all. Like for example, Saudi Arabia. I think it's bad tobacco. Not really. I think it's you can find tobacco everywhere. When it comes to alcohol, it's like some areas you can still find it, you can still buy it, but you like they only sell it for non-Muslims, like UAE, for example, or even like Morocco, Algeria, other countries like that. You can still find those, and you can still buy them illegally, but then there are other areas that they, sell them, but they only sell them for non-Muslims.
Um, so I seen a TikTok of um, I'm not sure, about 10 Muslim men that were walking the streets of New York and were telling people that they weren't allowed to drink. Is that just a rarity or does that happen in Muslim countries as well?
A couple of men walking in New York and then they asking people not to drink alcohol. Is that it?
Yes.
Yeah, that's a troll video. Like your algorithm is ridiculous. Okay, that's there's a lot of propaganda, there's a lot of trolling, uh, and there's a lot of content like that. I wouldn't take that seriously because we know that this country is a filthy country. There's a lot of things like that happening, like alcohol intoxication, there's prostitution. There's all kind of immoral things happening. It's not an Islamic country, so these things are expected. And yeah, so it depends on the. I don't know. I didn't see the video, so if it's some couple of guys saying that you should not be drinking, that drinking is bad and stuff like that, that's fine. It's like good. That's actually true. But if you're saying that this man's going around like forbidding people to drink, that's something else, and I think it's a troll.
And the LGBTQ community, is that accepted in Muslim countries?
No, and we think that's an immoral, sexual immorality. We don't accept that.
So, is there consequences for being part of the LGBTQ
Uh,
community in Muslim countries?
yeah, so there's multiple approaches when it comes to that. Depends on how you do it. For example, if you're going out and you're trying to spread that kind of ideology in public, that would be considered as a kind of corruption, and you may face legal punishments. But it doesn't mean that people can just go and look for, suspect people of that kind of things and analyze people, something like that. That's ridiculous. It doesn't exist. But Islamically, talking about that, we still think about it as a sexual immorality. It's a sin. And if you do that, for example, in public in a Islamic state, that would be, first of all, people not going to like that. And they're not going to, but again, it depends on the situation.
So, what you're saying is people are free to be in an LGBTQ relationship as long as it's done at home and nowhere else.
In a way, yeah.
Okay.
I'm not saying that it's okay or it's illegal or anything like that. It's just that if you what's happening in your bedroom stays in your bedroom, I guess, right?
Okay.
But again, there's a very big difference between doing a sin or doing something that is considered a sin and going public with that sin and actually spreading corruption among the peaceful, community.
Why do you say Jesus is Muslim?
In Islam, we believe that all prophets were Muslims, right? That all submitted their will to God, including Adam, Abraham, Isaac, Noah, Moses, Jesus, Muhammad, peace be upon them all. They all had the same religion. They all submitted their will to God. They all preach monotheism, worship one God, don't take partners beside him, worship, believe in the prophets, believe in the revelation that was revealed to these prophets, believe in the angels, believe in the day of judgment, etc. And say that all did the same thing. And Islam just means to submit to the will of Allah or to God, and we believe that all the prophets did that.
Do you consider Jesus the Son of God?
We don't use that language, but I understand what you mean by saying that he's a son of God, not in a literal way or an ontological way that he shares the same substance as God, whatever that means. But if you mean that he's a son of God, means he's like close to God, that he obeys God, just like the biblical language uses that. For example, I think in the Gospel of Mark, it says that the peacekeepers are called the sons of God, and so on. So if you mean it metaphorically, then that's completely okay. But we don't use that language today because of what the Christians did. Christians believe that Jesus is literally the Son of God, that he is God himself. Because of that, we don't accept that, and so that language is not used anymore. If it was used, it would be used in the correct sense.
So do you believe that God is a Trinity with the Holy Spirit?
Absolutely not. So God in the Quran multiple times confirms that he is one. Chapter 112 says that God is one, right? That he does not beget nor is he begotten. The Holy Spirit is mentioned, but it's mentioned as his, like Gabriel, like the angel Gabriel, right? We believe that his word is his command. It's his creation as well, right? And we believe that God is absolutely one. He's one. He has a nature, and he's absolutely one person, not three, right? And the Quran multiple times it says, or actually one time it mentions that Christians should not say that God is triune at all. So yeah, we don't take the Trinity. We don't believe that Jesus actually preached anything like that. Jesus himself was saying God is one. The Old Testament says God is one. The Quran says God is one. So they're all in continuity. The church fathers and other people corrupted the religion of Christianity, unfortunately, later.
Do you believe that Christians have to become Muslim in order to go to heaven?
We believe that Islam is the only true religion, and Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, the Quran says that no one can go to heaven if he's not a Muslim. So God says that there's only one religion that he's accepting, and that is the religion of Islam, that is full submission to him. So today, yes, if you're not a Muslim, you're not going to make it to heaven. During the time of Jesus, if you're not a Muslim and you do not follow him and his commands, you're not going to be considered a Muslim. You're not going to go to heaven. And that's very clear.
What year was the Quran written?
There's multiple manuscripts that go back to the 7th century. The Quran was revealed orally, and during the 7th century, during the time it was revealed, it was written down and it was memorized and known by heart until today. We have millions of people who knows the Quran by heart since that time.
And what year was Muhammad born?
7th century, early 7th century, 630
Oh,
something like that.
So did he write the Quran, or did someone write
So when you say
as a witness?
Yeah, so when you say writing it, literally, no, he did not write it down because he was illiterate. He did not know how to write or read, right? Yet he produced the best known text ever known in history, which is the Quran. No, so what happens was he had a committee, scribes, who would write it down every time a verse would be revealed. So within 20 I think 23 years, this revelation was revealed, right? The Wahy or the Quran was revealed. Every time a verse would be revealed, they would memorize it and they would write it down at the same time. So now he would just recite it, and then other people would write it down and memorize it, including himself.
Well, it's kind of similar to the Bible because
Not
other
at all.
people read it, not Jesus.
Not at all. The
So-
Bible was written decades after the fact. For example, it was canonized at the year 385, right? And we don't have any manuscripts that goes back to the time of Jesus, for the 1st century. You got manuscripts like the first known full collection of the Bible or the New Testament is 325, the Codex Sinaiticus.
I hope it's okay for me to ask this question. If it isn't, you can just disregard it. But do Muslim countries believe that, is there jihad in Muslim countries, or does that only happen in other countries? Is this a belief that all Muslims carry, or just a certain sect of the Muslim faith?
So the word jihad has two meaning. It's to struggle against your own soul. For example, the soul will command you to do a lot of bad things, and you have to struggle. For example, there's the perverted desires you may have, your natural desires, for example, and you struggle against yourself to not, worship or submit to your own desires. The second jihad will be to fight against the transgressors, right? And this is I think the thing you were talking about. So today in Muslim countries, unfortunately, if you take the example of Afghanistan, it was always in war for the past century, like 100 years. Imagine these people fought the Soviets, they fought the Americans, they fought the Russians, I guess. They didn't even have a break. The same thing in the Middle East, Iraq, Syria, Palestine. Those people, like they have nonstop bombing by us, by the Western, not us when I live here though, by Americans, by the NATO, those are the same people who go there and drop millions, tons of bombs on these countries, and at the same time they're calling them like the T word, right? So jihad just means to struggle and to fight against those transgressors who are trying to unalive you. So in Islam, we cannot take a life, you cannot unalive an innocent life, right? And so, but you're allowed to fight against people who are trying to unalive you. If someone comes to my home and trying to unalive me or my baby or my wife, I'm gonna fight him back. I'm gonna unalive him first. That's all completely okay, and that's jihad. There's nothing wrong with that. The problem we have in the West is that you have the same people who are terrorizing actually and dropping tons of bombs on those countries, killing and unaliving babies and the women, innocent women, pregnant women, innocent men, by the hundreds of thousands of them. And then at the same time they say, oh, those are terrorists and they deserve to be unalived to begin with. And so that's why the Western people, they don't have any sympathy when it comes to those people dying, because they've already been programmed and not to feel anything about them.
So if it does happen in a Western country and one particular group does engage in jihad in Western countries, is that sanctified by the Muslim faith, or are they just like a sect that have branched off from the Muslim faith?
So it depends how they do this jihad. So for example, if it's just a sect who just go out and just unalive anyone just because they don't share the same religion, that's actually against the religion. If you mean by, like, for example, grouping up and fighting the people who are trying to unalive them, for example, people who are invading their country, they have all the right to do that. Jihad just means to fight in the name of Allah against the transgressors and do not allow, unalive innocent people, right? So a lot of people would do that, but then they would go against the Quran, right? No, jihad is something that is commanded in the Quran, just means to fight against transgressors, right? If it's a sect that just uses that word, but then they do completely other kind of disgusting things, right? Like for example, ISIS or like other groups. We don't take those as part of our religion,
In in Muslim countries, like in Western countries, there's a lot of violence. I'm not saying from Muslim people. I'm just saying in general, there's a lot of violence in Western countries. In Muslim countries, is it typically non-violent in a country that's all Muslim?
There's no violence in Morocco. There's no violence in Algeria. There's no violence in Saudi Arabia. There's no violence in UAE. There's no violence in peaceful countries. There's violence in countries that the Western countries destabilized, right? Countries like Iraq, Syria, Palestine. And the problem is there's violence there is because the Western government created that violence, because they wanted that violence there. There's violence, for example, in here. There's school shooting in Europe as
Yes.
well. There's all kind of violence, but no one's talking about those, right? Because the thing is that the T word, terrorist attacks, these words are only reserved for brown people with Middle Eastern Arabian names committing crimes. But when white people commit crimes, those are called mentally ill people who needs to go to the hospital. There's a lot of violence, for example, in Latino countries. There's a lot of mafias, a lot of gang-related violence. No one's talking about these. But for some reason, every time when a brown man commits a crime, all of a sudden it's all over the world, like, all over the news. Everybody's talking about how, these people are just committing violence all around the world. Now, you're causing this violence because you want this violence, right? If you give them peace, if you give them, don't put sanctions on their countries, and if you let them live in peace, they're gonna live in peace. If you create violence, they're gonna retaliate with violence. God damn it! I don't want to talk about politics, but yeah, you have more questions?
Oh, sorry. I just I mean, there's a lot of Western countries, we don't understand the complexity of the different faiths and how a Muslim country lives as opposed to how Western countries operate. So thank you for taking the time to talk to me.
Yeah,
I
for
really
sure.
appreciate it.
For sure.
Really, really do.
For sure.
I think I have heard that the UAE and Saudi Arabia is nonviolent. My friend travels there a lot, and she said it's really safe.
Hey, Saudi Arabia is the safest country in the world. And I think it's the most Muslim country in the world. That's the thing is that those countries where you have, for example, crimes and stuff like that, corruption, not because they're Muslim, it's because they're going away from Islam. It's because they're going away from Sharia law, right? The Sharia law that these, people here trying to scare you with is actually, they hate it because it's against them. Because Sharia law actually fights corruption. It fights alcohol. It fights like gambling. It fights all interest, for example. Look at people cannot even pay their rents. They cannot pay their mortgages. They are suffering from all kind of corruption because of that. And Sharia law actually produces a solution for those problems. And people here knows that, and that's why they're trying to label Sharia law as something bad. It is not. Read about it. Islamic law actually is a perfect solution for all governments out there.
Thank you so much for telling me, for sharing all of this. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely,
I
you're most
don't.
welcome.
I sometimes when you go on Muslim lives, sometimes there seems to be like animosity, but I just feel like acceptance and love from you. So thank you for that.
Yeah, of
Appreciate
course.
it.
Yeah, of course.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You have a blessed day.
Take care. You too.